So we're finally back with another episode review for My Hero Academia, and my main general consensus and criticisms of the first episode was to introduce us back into the world of My Hero Academia. I feel like the way that they did it was not bad. It wasn't a bad idea with the way that they did it, but what bothered me the most about it was just retelling people's quirks all over again, even though we already fucking remember all this shit after watching the show for like 4 seasons, and the manga's been going on for dozens of chapters and this and that and blah blah blah. And a few movies as well, and then also retelling the whole monologue of like, oh yeah, 80% of the population has quirks and all this really other fucking dumb shit that doesn't need to be told to the audience once more. I thought it was a problem, and just to have the whole episode be centered around that, I thought it was lame. Even though I like seeing the characters and seeing the characters do cool shit with their cool ass quirks and shit, it just was really a bother for me just to have to see all that all over again, just to be reminded of that, even though I didn't really forget. And it's not really easy for me to really forget any of this shit, maybe for certain characters because they don't get enough screen time, but I don't easily forget about this stuff. I don't need to be told this once more. It's not something that needs to be told to me personally. I feel like to a lot of people as well, because I also saw a lot of criticisms about that on Twitter as well. So clearly people agree with the same mindset as I do. But now we're back with another episode for this week, and I actually really digged it. I thought it was super good. The episode starts back off with where we had left off with the interactions and conversations and conflict, and I'm trying to think of a certain word. I can't. Confrontation, that's what it was, between Dabi and Endeavor and Hawks. After the whole Nomu fight and during the finale of the previous season. Dabi's pretty much just talking about like how he wants to have a conversation with Endeavor specifically. He even name drops Endeavor's like actual real name before he leaves and almost gets his shit kicked in by the number 3 hero, Miroko. I don't really know how to pronounce her hero name. I'm sorry, I butcher it. I fucking know. But he fucking leaves, and then later on in the episode, him and Hawks start having a conversation, and I'm just like, oh, is Hawks like a fucking villain this whole time? That's super lame, because he was really cool. I really liked him. He was like, because I said it in the previous video as well, I was like, Hawks is like really cool. I think his quirk is interesting in the sense that he's able to just manipulate the feathers like the way that he does. And the way that he uses them is used in ways that you wouldn't really think about yourself if you really put yourself in the situation. You wouldn't really use them like the way that you would think you would. It's just really creative, and I think the way that he uses them is really creative, and how they work overall. It's interesting. He's an interesting character. The fact that he's so laid back and chill, but he's still wanting to be a fucking hero, like the way that he goes about shit. I really like his character. I really dig it. But then it's revealed that he's not really in association with them. He's more like just a spy. And obviously, like the way that you can really see it is that the hero society has to follow along specific guidelines and rules regardless, right? And who are they gonna have to listen to end of the day? Pretty much someone higher up, which is pretty much like the government and stuff. And I don't really know who specifically they are. There are a couple people in certain flashbacks with Hawks, and they're talking to them, and they're like, oh, go do this and this to go and figure out certain information and blah blah blah. And just like, I don't even know who these people are, let alone do I barely know anything about Hawks to begin with, other than he's pretty much just child prodigy, like that was shown in the flashback. They saved a whole bunch of a whole bunch of random civilians when he was a kid, and then it just continues on. He has this conflict of trying to be a hero, but still trying to figure out information about the League of Villains for the benefit of who they are and the society that they live in, and for being a hero. And that makes sense. But we continue on, and the episode goes from that to Endeavor going back home because he's finally released from the hospital that he was recuperating in. The interaction that he has with this family and the whole scene in general, I thought it was masterclass, because I think it makes so much fucking sense for it to happen the way that it did, for characters to react in the way that they do. The whole scenario was just honestly super good for all of these characters and their developments, right? Specifically, I would like to say Endeavor himself and Shoto Todoroki. Because it makes sense for them to react to the way that they do. As like I already said, like everyone, right? Just, like Natsu or Natsuo, he doesn't want to immediately want to forgive his dad, and that makes sense because of the lives that they had to live, the suffering that his mother had to go through, his little brother had to go through. The family life that they were living just wasn't stable. It wasn't something that they wanted. It's really fucked up the way that they had to live, and he doesn't want to easily just forgive his dad like nothing happened. It's not easy for him to do that and just move on, especially because they mention his older brother and how he's basically just like gone out of the picture. Like I mentioned before, his mom crying and his brother getting abused and all this stuff and all this crap. The family life just wasn't stable and it wasn't good, and him reacting like the way that he did was it makes sense. Fuyumi, Shoto's sister, her being more understanding and forgiving of her dad also makes sense, especially because her main motivation for wanting to forgive his dad, her reacting the way that she did just makes sense to me because I can easily relate to that myself. I mentioned this before, but I didn't really have like the best family life myself. My mother and my father, they weren't really there for me as much as they could have been. Wanting a regular family life, because that's what she mentions in the episode, that she just wants to feel like she actually has a true regular family like everybody else in this whole world that they live in does. And I can understand that. She gets super emotional about it, and it makes sense. It makes sense for her to to feel this type of way, and she already has been shown off to be a really emotional person to begin with, but her and her mother seem to specifically really want to make this work. And it makes sense. It makes sense that these two in particular, because women are known for being much more compassionate and understanding, it makes sense that these two are the ones who are much more wanting to ease into this type of lifestyle. And then we get to Shoto himself, Shoto Todoroki. He is the one that makes the most sense as well, and the one that I can agree with the most, because he can't forgive his dad. Because obviously of what he did before by physically abusing him, physically and mentally abusing his mother, and constantly just tormenting the whole family and not treating them in the best way that he should have as a father and as a husband. But he is 100% willing to see him move on forward into the future and be a better person, be a better father, be a better hero. It just worked. It worked so well, and I was so like moved by the scene. Like it was really good. It was a really good scene. It's really good character development for all of these characters, for the entire of the Todoroki family. I was really glad that this scene was a thing at all, because I feel like it needed to happen for these characters, because it wouldn't make sense for them to just kind of like pretend like none of that happened and this and that and move on, like it was nothing. I'm glad it happened. I'm glad it was a thing. I'm glad this was in the episode at all. It was really good. I really liked it. And then we get to like the most like freaky part of the fucking episode, which is where Midoriya meets the previous wielders of One for All for like the first time, right? Like pretty much we actually get to see we actually get to see what like a few of them actually look like. And then later on, we also get to see a vision of what happened previously before in the past with All for One and One for All. And we see All for One and his top peak of power position, him basically manipulating the world of giving people quirks and taking other people's quirks in association for basically completely manipulating over them and having them do his bidding and this and that, and doing things for him that he wants them to do, even if he doesn't directly, tell them. And then we get to see the actual moment where One for All actually gets his quirk One for All. And I really like in this episode as well, we actually get a full, like, actual confirmation as to where Midoriya currently is with his quirk, One for All, and where like he has it like strength wise and completion wise. He's at 20%. And I feel like this is something that needed to happen like a little while ago, but we have it now. And just the whole scene was really freaky because he gets to see the previous wielders, gets to see the whole events of One for All getting his power for the first time, and All for One being at peak power position, like I mentioned, and him actually having a brief conversation with One for All, right? Talking about like how he wanted to show Midoriya more of the events that transpired before in the past, but he couldn't because Midoriya is only at 20%. And just the whole scene was really freaky, and it actually gave me like some chills like on my arms and stuff. It was really chilling, but it was super good. I really enjoyed watching it. I thought it was super solid. I really enjoyed viewing this scene in general. I thought it was great. And honestly, that's all I really have to say about the episode. It did a lot of things that were really good, and I just really enjoyed it. It was super clean. Music was good. It was used in proper ways. Character development was great. Character moments were really good. It was all just a really solid episode. And I really was glad to see something investing and intriguing in different ways than what we had before as the first episode of the new season, as it was pretty safe and pretty basic, and that's why I was kind of, like I said, really disappointed by it, as it didn't really need to be as basic as it was, but it was, and there's nothing we can really do about it. But we got this one, and I thought it was good. I thought it was great. So that's kind of all I have to really say about it. So that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys next one. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you want more. I'm out. Peace.